Ethan Parker was the kind of man who valued doing the right thing over seeking approval. A retired military officer, he had spent his life in service to others, first on the battlefield and later in his small, tight-knit town of Maple Ridge. Ethan lived a simple life, spending most of his days working in his woodworking shop, crafting beautiful furniture and toys. It was his sanctuary, a place where he could keep his mind busy and his heart at peace. He'd lost his wife to cancer a few years back, and they had never been blessed with children. Now, Ethan was alone, though he rarely complained. One autumn afternoon, Ethan found himself at St. Mary's orphanage, delivering hand-carved toys to the children, a tradition he'd started with his late wife. As he handed out the toys, a small figure caught his eye. In the corner of the room, a little girl sat by herself, clutching a worn-out teddy bear missing one eye. Her name was Sophia, a 6-year-old black girl who had been at the orphanage for nearly a year, abandoned by a family that couldn't care for her. There was something about her, those big, searching eyes that spoke of loneliness and a quiet resilience. Ethan felt an inexplicable pull toward her. Sophia was shy at first, but Ethan's gentle demeanor made her feel safe. They spent the afternoon talking. Sophia loved to draw, and Ethan watched as she sketched delicate flowers and animals with surprising skill for her age. She had a quiet confidence that captivated him, and when it was time to leave, Ethan felt an unfamiliar pang of sadness. That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about Sophia. He pictured her sitting alone, navigating a world that had already been so unkind. He knew in his heart that she deserved more. Within a week, Ethan had started the adoption process. The decision wasn't difficult for him, but for the town, it was bewildering. Maple Ridge was a traditional town, where people stuck to what they knew, and anything different was often met with suspicion. The adoption of a black child by a white, single, middle-aged man was an unusual move, to say the least. Ethan's neighbors, the town gossipers, and even his old friends had opinions. "You're really going through with this?" they'd ask, their tone laced with disbelief. "It's not the same as adopting one of our own. You're asking for trouble." The whispers grew louder when Ethan brought Sophia home. She was a little girl with tightly curled hair and brown skin in a town where she stood out like a rose in the snow. Ethan heard it all, the snide comments about her race, the cruel jokes about him wanting attention, and the doubts that he could be a suitable father to a child who looked so different. Even at church, where acceptance should have been a given, he felt the judgment. It didn't take long for Sophia to notice, too. She would ask Ethan why people stared at them in the grocery store or why some kids wouldn't play with her at the park. Ethan would kneel down, look her in the eyes, and say, "We don't let other people decide who we are. You and I, we're a team." Despite the resistance, Ethan threw himself into fatherhood. He learned how to braid Sophia's hair, staying up late to watch YouTube tutorials and practice on dolls. He enrolled her in ballet lessons, attended every recital, and cheered louder than any other parent there. They spent weekends at the library, where Sophia would lose herself in books and art supplies. Evenings were filled with laughter, drawing contests, and bedtime stories. Ethan encouraged her passion for art, hanging her drawings all over his shop. He saw Sophia not as a project or a charity case, but as his daughter, deserving of all the love and opportunities in the world. Sophia thrived under Ethan's unwavering support. She excelled in school, often bringing home awards for her artwork and essays. By the time she was in high school, she was already known for her talent, but it wasn't always easy. There were times when the weight of prejudice felt unbearable, like the day she overheard a teacher mutter that she only got the art scholarship because of the color of her skin, or when a local art competition she'd clearly won was downplayed by the judges. Ethan would be there, a steady presence reminding her that her worth was not up for debate. As the years went on, the town slowly began to see what Ethan had always seen in Sophia, a bright, talented, and kind-hearted young woman whose potential was limitless. She became the first in her class, a star student with a bright future. Ethan was prouder than ever when Sophia received a full scholarship to one of the country's top art schools. She went on to travel the world, her art displayed in galleries from New York to Paris, telling stories of resilience, hope, and identity through every brushstroke. She often spoke about her father during interviews, crediting him as her biggest influence and supporter. Years later, Sophia returned to Maple Ridge for her most ambitious project yet, a mural on the town's old community center. The mural depicted a black girl and a white man standing together, their hands clasped, surrounded by symbols of unity, family, and love. The girl's eyes were bright and hopeful, much like the eyes Sophia had when Ethan first met her. It was a beautiful and deeply personal piece, meant to honor her father and challenge the small-mindedness that had once sought to push them apart. The entire town gathered for the unveiling. Among the crowd were those who had once mocked and ridiculed Ethan for his decision. As they stared at the mural, some with tears in their eyes, they realized what Ethan had always known: love transcends race, prejudice, and all the shallow judgments of a narrow-minded world. The mural was a stark reminder of the strength of their bond and the power of unconditional love. One by one, people approached Ethan and Sophia. The same neighbors who had laughed and gossiped years before now found themselves apologizing, grappling with the shame of their past actions. "We were wrong," one man confessed, his voice breaking. "You've done something incredible here." Ethan, now gray-haired and a little slower in his step, simply smiled. He didn't need their apologies. He had known all along that the best decision of his life had been adopting Sophia. He had watched her grow into a remarkable woman, defying every expectation and challenging the status quo at every turn. Sophia's mural became a symbol of change in Maple Ridge. It reminded the town that love could heal even the deepest divides. The people who had once looked down on Ethan's decision now found inspiration in his courage. They regretted their narrow-mindedness, realizing too late that Ethan had seen what they couldn't: that family isn't defined by blood or skin color, but by the love that binds people together. Ethan and Sophia stood side by side, looking up at the mural. Ethan squeezed Sophia's hand and said, "You've made this town better just by being you." Sophia smiled, her eyes shining with tears. "No, Dad. You did that. You always believed in me." In the end, it wasn't about proving the town wrong or seeking their approval. It was about a man who saw a little girl who needed love and didn't hesitate to give it. And for that, both Ethan and Sophia would always be grateful.